As the largest council in Europe, we should strengthen our resolve as a city and have a zero tolerance to suicide. We should aim to smash the stigma surrounding mental health and, as the second city, become the gold standard for the rest of the country to follow. And you will know that when I joined the council, my maiden speech was on suicide prevention, and we did a suicide prevention strategy, and we adopted that formally at City Council in January of 2020, which was 2 months before the pandemic hit properly, and we went into the first lockdown. And obviously during the lockdown of the last year, mental health issues have skyrocketed. I haven't spoken to I don't know a single person who hasn't been affected by mental health this last year. I think all of us working in the council have struggled in our own ways, and of course suicide has undoubtedly gone up as well, and I think we can unfortunately tragically expect to see that. And I do have some hope and reassurance that we got that strategy adopted before the pandemic hit. But one of the comments that was made during the debate back in 2018 from colleagues across the chamber was they didn't want to see that strategy as just another document on the shelf that gathers dust. And so, as this is an assurance meeting on audit committee, I thought it was only right and proper to challenge you on that, Councillor Hamilton. And can you assure me that that document has been used during our pandemic, and that, you know, we are helping as much as we can when it comes to mental health in the city? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Morell knows he's pushing at an open door. The strategy has not been put on the shelf, I can assure you of that. COVID has hit and it has been like a tsunami, I have to say. And the strategy, where possible, we've continued to use it. But Councillor Morell, can I assure you that going forward, as things start to get back to normal, things will be reported back through the different committees, and we can assure you that the strategy will not sit on the shelf, and we will be starting regular reporting, what we've done around the issues of suicide prevention and some of the work that's been started around mental health, which is something that's been done across the council.
Lord Mayor, suicide is a rising epidemic that affects everyone. In England, one person dies every 2 hours as a result of suicide. Suicide is currently the biggest killer of men under the age of 50. Men are 3 times more likely than women to be a victim of suicide, and this gender gap has been growing over the last 35 years. Youth suicide is also a major concern. When you go below the age of 35, suicide becomes the biggest killer of young people across genders. Despite some significant reductions over the last 35 years, suicide still claims 5,688 lives in 2016. Last year, there were 477 suicides in the West Midlands. However, Lord Mayor, this figure may be much greater, as for a coroner to conclude that a suicide has taken place, a strict burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt must be met, which means that the statistics on suicide are likely to be significantly underreported. Lord Mayor, the reason I care about this so much is because I actually lost one of my own friends to suicide in 2016. And it was only this year in February when I realised he died because of suicide. In March, I then came across the Project 84 campaign, which was being run by CALM, which was working alongside ITV. They made 84 sculptures of men, and which each represented a real person who had lost from suicide. They placed the sculptures along the top of the ITV tower blocks in London to basically state the message that each week 85 men lose their lives to suicide. I was deeply moved by it, but also thrilled at the fact that male suicide was now finally getting the media attention that it rightly deserved. So in April, with my election coming up, I went to see Bobby, the leader of the Conservative group, and I told him that I wanted to run my own personal election address in my ward of Franklin. Being the great leader that he was, he told me if it was what I really wanted to do, he wouldn't stop me from doing it. And so I would like to read a snippet from that election address to the Chamber today. I was never taught in school how to start a business, how to file a tax return, or how to stand on my own 2 feet. I had to learn this on my own. I grew up around Great Park, where the local cinema and nursery used to let me skateboard on their car park, providing we stayed clear from the cars and were tidy. This kept me out of trouble, but it also gave me a purpose, as I would burn my own skateboarding films to DVD and sell them for £5. I was 16 making money from a hobby, and I often joked to my socialist friends that skateboarding made me a Tory. Fast forward to today, and I see young men reverting to either a life of crime or recluse away to a life trapped away in a bedroom, checking out of society. Many of our young boys don't have a purpose, they simply exist, and it feels like the mainstream establishment are completely out of touch on this topic. In the UK, the single biggest killer of young men under 45 is suicide. This really hit home for me with my friend Phil. We were polar opposites politically. He was a socialist and I was a Tory, but we would debate all night, putting the world to rights over a pint and a packet of crisps. In early 2016, Phil tragically took his own life, and I spent years not knowing why. In recent times, when politics has become more divided and extreme, Phil reminds me why I got into politics. We agreed that politicians should put their money where their mouth is. They should be passionate about something, and most importantly, they should have purpose. Lord Mayor, that is the reason I am standing in this chamber today. And since then, as you may be aware from the last council, I have donated a sum of my council allowance to the charity campaign against living miserably to help raise awareness of male suicide, and I've continued to bang the drum on the issue. In August, I ran the half marathon to raise money for the cause, and now I've lobbied the Conservative group to be able to bring this issue to Chamber to debate it. Phil would be delighted to see me elected in his chamber, being able to hold this executive to account. He would also be laughing hysterically to see a Tory standing up here asking for state intervention. I'm not religious, and he was an atheist, but God bless you, mate, and thank you for giving the time.
Thank you.